Manchester United do not have anybody lined up to replace Erik Ten Hag this year, but who could be possibly lined up as his possible replacement if things don't improve? We've got links with Benjamin Cesco. Where's the credibility coming from in that? More stories about Alonso Davies, Malaysia updates, injury updates. 3 United players are shortlisted for the Golden Boy Awards, and links with the Brazilian wonder kid, all coming up in a rundown of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video, and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with what seems to be customary Erik Ten Hag updates, because there have actually been some interesting stories and some kind of credible reports coming out regarding the manager situation. So this has come from the Muppeteers, who is, I think, a reliable source. I think he's got inside information when it comes to things around Ineos and United. So he was saying that they doesn't get the impression that Erik Ten Hag is close to being sacked. He also said that it's more likely to review his position during the next international break. So what he was effectively saying was that the plan was to always review the manager position around December time. But obviously those reviews have been brought forward because we've been massively underwhelming, to say the least, so far this season, and that it's kind of caught a lot of people off guard at United. They were not expecting it to be this bad so soon into the season, which is why there hasn't been any contingencies. We do not have another manager lined up, or if we do, they're not available at the moment as well, and they're planning to again review it by the next international break. But he did also say that a really bad result against Brentford could change their mind, and I think we are kind of one really bad result away from potentially being in that situation. But again, the Muppeteers were also saying that nobody is lined up to take the job this year. So according to the Muppeteers, that means that if they do bite the bullet and remove Erik Ten Hag, then the most likely scenario is that it will be Van Nistelrooy and Rene Haag until the end of the season, potentially, or until they can at least maybe negotiate with somebody else. Now, he also went on to say that Thomas Tuchel didn't want the United job. He was never really an option for United. And he did kind of maintain that throughout the whole kind of noise that's been happening over the last couple of weeks regarding Thomas Tuchel. I think a lot of those stories were coming from the kind of the media, but the kind of and the Manchester Evening News have literally been putting stories about Thomas Tuchel every single day. As I mentioned in the other video the other day, I don't know what they're going to write about now because Thomas Tuchel's obviously gone to England. But he also said, which was interesting from the Muppeteers, that Ineos have lined up their top target. They know exactly who they want long-term if Ten Hag is sacked. And also they discussed all potential long-term and short-term outcomings, including manager targets. So effectively what he was saying is that in the meeting that they had last week, obviously, they did discuss the manager situation and are starting to put in place contingency plans for if they need to make that decision, if things don't improve. But obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it has caught them off guard a little bit about how bad we've been to the start of the season. They weren't expecting to have this discussion so soon, which has kind of caught them a little bit off guard. And then, according to the Muppeteers, the possible replacements that potentially could be lined up as a replacement for Ten Hag would be Thomas Frank, Kieran McKenna, Sebastian Hoeneß, Andoni Iraola from Bournemouth. He did say, though, as well, which was music to my ears, not Southgate, not Potter, and interestingly, not Amorim, because Amorim would be surely amongst one of the top candidates around, considering how well he's been doing at Sporting. So the Muppeteers, he did say there might be other names as well, and that he doesn't know exactly for sure who they would go after, but they were some of the names that he kind of mentioned on there as well. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think out of those potential kind of manager targets. I mean, Kieran McKenna stands out. I think they all stand out. Are they, outstanding candidates? Maybe not, but Ineos want a long-term project. They want to build with a manager, to build a squad and build a team. And I think there's the managers are on that list that are capable of doing that, which is a bit of a tell for me. Thomas Frank's done good at Brentford. Kieran McKenna done unbelievable at Ipswich since he's gone there. Sebastian Hoeneß is doing really good at Stuttgart, and it'd be interesting to see how Iraola gets on at Bournemouth as well. So interesting kind of names. Let me know what you think, though, about that in the comments. Now, that's not the only replacement shortlist that came out, though. So according to the Mirror, they were saying that Ruud van Nistelrooy, Zinedine Zidane, Kieran McKenna, Gareth Southgate, and Graham Potter on their 5-man shortlist to replace Erik Ten Hag if he was to be removed. I believe the Muppeteers more than the Mirror. Obviously, you can make your own mind up in that, but I do think that the Muppeteers is a credible source. Obviously interesting. They both got Kieran McKenna on the list. We know we spoke to him in the summer as well, so that's potentially one to keep an eye out for. I don't think Zidane's going to come because the whole English. I think he's waiting for the France job, according to all reports. Van Nistelrooy would take over probably as interim anyway, and then Gareth Southgate, Graham Potter. If they wanted those, I think they could have just done it at any moment because they're both out of work, and I don't think those reports are true. I think it's more mainstream media stirring up the pot, but also a mates rates thing because they're English managers. They want to throw them out there in the hat because the British media would love nothing more than an English manager at United. So I do think it's a little bit of nonsense regarding those two. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, in terms of other candidates, so Thomas Frank, there's been stories coming from the Mail saying that Thomas Frank has emerged as a leading contender to become Manchester United manager if Erik Ten Hag is sacked. And the Mail were also saying that Xabi Alonso turned down interest from Manchester United and Liverpool to stay in Germany. So another name link. That would be an interesting option, Alonso, although I don't know with the kind of Liverpool connection whether he would be a viable option for us. Would be definitely an interesting choice. He's proved that he's potentially going to be an outstanding manager going forward. Rumours are he wants to go to Real Madrid, though, by all accounts. And then Christian Falk, who was spot on with the Thomas Tuchel news. I think he was the first kind of journalist to suggest that Thomas Tuchel might be going for the England job. So he's been kind of pretty reliable recently and is a good kind of credible source as well. Has said that a highly regarded candidate on Manchester United managerial shortlist is Edin Terzic. The club have already made contact. United have been monitoring his progress since the summer. So a few names on the list there as well as potential replacements if things go south with Ten Hag. I think at the minute, reading between the lines, I've said this a few times, I think that they're wanting to stick with Ten Hag. They want to see it improve. They've kind of put all their eggs in one basket when regarding Ten Hag, obviously backing him in the summer, giving him the contract extension and so on and so forth. And they don't want to make this decision so early into a season. However, they're not naive enough to think that if things don't improve, then they might have to make a decision. They're putting contingencies in place, and we're just kind of seeing how we get on now until either results get really bad or potentially until the next international break, where they might have more of an idea of the kind of direction of travel that they want to go down. Because if things have improved, then great. I'm all for that as well. But if they haven't, then they'll make the decision and potentially start ramping up the interest in replacements. But it's more looking likely that we're going to have an interim this season if anything happens with Ten Hag, and then they're going to go for the number one candidate in the summer. That's what it kind of looks like going off of those reports. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, in other news, the Daily Mail saying that Manchester United hold an interest in Benjamin Cesco. He is expected to leave next summer, and United are among the clubs keen. Cesco is a player of interest. We've been linked with him multiple times over multiple years, so I do think that he's definitely a striker that is of interest to us. Obviously, we went for him in the summer as well before he decided to stay stay in Germany and sign a new contract. We've been linked with him even before, when he was at RB Salzburg, before he went to RB Leipzig. So he is definitely a player that's been high on our kind of watch list. But obviously we've gone for Xerxes because he wasn't available this summer. And, you know, he's a good player, Benjamin Sesko. He's very similar, in fact, I think he's kind of a bit of a hybrid of Xerxes and Højlund, where he's quite silky and can kind of link up play quite well, but also, you know, a penalty box striker as well. So definitely a player I would be kind of keen on, but I'm just of the opinion at the minute, I don't think it matters who we have up front. We do not create chances for our strikers, and that's been an issue. That's a legacy issue at United for years, where we're just not creative enough in the final third because we've got very selfish players that want to go for glory themselves. So I would be all for bringing in Cesco if that report is to be believed, but I would say take it with a pinch of salt at the moment. But I don't think it really matters. because if he gets no service, he's going to be a waste of time anyway going for him, because we do not create chances for strikers at the moment, and that's the problem. Because I think Højlund can score goals. I think he's a very good goal scorer, but I think I've seen something where he was like, he was 50th in terms of players that had chances created for them last season, 50th in the Premier League, do you know what I mean? Or around that, like 54th, I think it was, or something along those lines, which is ridiculous. So if you get a striker in and they end up being the 54th player in the league to have chances created for them, then it's just an absolute waste of time. So we need to look at more creativity, in my opinion. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, Cesco's not the only player that we've been linked with. So I brought you news the other day regarding links with Goretzka, Davies and Sane. Not from the most credible sources, but again, Christian Falk has said that if Manchester United are willing to pay Alphonso Davies' salary demands of 20 million euros a year, they would be a big competitor for Real Madrid. 20 million euros a year works out roughly £330,000 a week. You know, that's a massive. I don't think Ineos are going to pay those sort of wages, but if you factor in the fact that there's no transfer fee involved, maybe would they? I can't see it personally. I think, again, it's just stories linking us for views and clicks, and I do think he's Real Madrid bound, although I did read a report the other day that's suggesting that Barcelona might also be interested in him as well. So is it just like a bit of agent talk to generate interest, to get more money out of Madrid, or start a bidding war maybe with Barcelona as well? That could be a possibility, but I do think that he's one that does look Real Madrid bound, and 330 grand a week is a massive chunk of money for, even though he's quality, young, you're tying a young player down to a massive contract. Yeah, not for me personally at that sort of price. But again, not, you know, if there's no transfer fee involved, maybe they would look to do it, but I can't see it personally. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then congratulations to our 3 star boys. Kobe Mainu, Lenny Yoro, and Alejandro Garnacho have all made the 25 finalists, the shortlist for the Golden Boy Awards. That's the one area of United that we've kind of started to get right over recent years, is the youth and the youth development. Congratulations to the 3 of them, although they're up against some very, very talented players in there as well. But it does kind of show to me that actually United are on the right track when it comes to the youth development and promoting the youth. We just need to kind of get the right players around them and kind of build the foundations for obviously the future. But congratulations to those 3 for making the shortlist. And then let's go through some injury updates. Now, at the time of recording this video, Erik Ten Hag hasn't done his press conferences, so this is just what's based on the media. So we'll wait for the update regarding actual injuries. But on the official website, it said that Ugarte took part in a recovery session after returning to England. Tyrell Malacia took part in the first part of the group session, so he's kind of back on grass now, taking part in some of the team training, which is good. Mason Mount and Luke Shaw are making progress in their recoveries as well, but for how long will they be back for? Who knows? And they also said Mazraoui, Alejandro Garnacho and Ahmad are back in training after missing their country's matches during the international break. So that's interesting that Mazraoui's back. Whether he's going to be past fit to play or not, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, like I said, Ten Hag's press conference is coming up today, so we'll have to wait for some updates regarding that. Kobe Mainu and Harry Maguire are expected to be out for a few weeks, which is a bit of a blow. So let's go through some updates regarding the other players. So Tyrell Malacia is very close to playing again and could even return to action before the end of October. That came from Sport Witness. So that's looking promising in terms of Tyrell Malacia coming back from injury. Kobe Mainu is set to be out for around 4 weeks, depending on recovery and rehabilitation. That came from United Menace, who are quite credible when it comes to United injury news. And then Chris Klass, who's a good source, said that Kobe Mainu is likely to miss United's next 7 games. That's so frustrating, isn't it? You know, and this is one of the criticisms that I have around Ten Hag is that is you know, the baffling decisions this season around rotation and bits. Do you know what I mean? And it still blows my mind. The Rashford rotation really kind of irritates me for the Porto game, because he then brought on Alejandro Garnacho, who apparently is playing with a knock and had a knock at that point as well. That's why he missed the Argentina games, because he's got some kind of niggly knee injury apparently. So you rotate Rashford to bring on a potentially injured Garnacho that could potentially have got his injury worse and then played Garnacho in the next game. But yet Kobe Mainoo's pretty much been, you know, exhausted. So he was always going to get injured for me, Mainoo, because of the amount of not just the minutes he's playing, but also the amount of work he's having to do in that midfield, because we haven't got that midfield sorted. And I've said in a few of my match reactions and stuff, Kobe Mainoo's tired in the second half. I can see it like with your eyes that he is tiring in this second half, and he's not rotating him, or he's not bringing him off, or he's not kind of helping him as well. So whether that's a contributing factor to his injuries, apparently he's had a couple, like a little niggle injury, but we're still playing him as well. So by the sounds of things, we are still playing players with knocks and injuries, which is, you know, it is what it is. Can't change it, can't go back in time, but it's a massive, massive concern that I have. So he'll be a big miss, Kobe Mainoo. And then in terms of Harry Maguire, it says he's unlikely to be sold by Manchester United this January. So that came from Dean Jones. Remember, there's been stories over the last few days regarding a £10 million sale of Maguire in January, which I did say take with a pinch of salt. Dean Jones is a little bit more credible, not the most credible, but he's saying that he won't be sold in January. I think we'd be stupid to sell Maguire in January without having an adequate replacement, considering I know he's starting to pick up a few injuries, but he has been one of our most consistent performers over the last year or so. So that would be a big mistake for me letting him go. Obviously, he's going to be a few weeks away. And then Manuel Ugarte came off in the second half for the Uruguay game, so there is concerns about his fitness and his injury. Chris Hurst, who's a good source, said that Manuel Ugarte is only able to take part in light training on Thursday due to a thigh injury he sustained while with Uruguay. So, you know, obviously we've had reports that they were going to start ramping up his integration into the first team, and then he comes back injured because he's never had any minutes, and then you expect him to go on international duty and play 90 minutes to gain his fitness, and now he comes back injured. Who would have thought that would have happened? Shocking decisions, Tuchel around Ugarte, not giving him more game time, even in the second half, 10, 15 minutes here and there to build his fitness up at the club. But that obviously hasn't happened, and now potentially he's injured, which is, you know, it is what it is. And then Lenny Yoro is progressing well as he recovers from a metatarsal injury. He is hoping to be in team training before November's international break. That came from Ben Jacobs, so that'll be good to see Lenny Yoro come back. They are going to take their time with him, though. They're not going to rush him back because they don't want him to have a reoccurrence and be out injured again. But massively exciting to see Lenny Yoro come back. I think he can make a difference in the team and the squad. Obviously, he's a rotation option as well, but I think he's a really good kind of ball playing defender that would complement Martinez quite well. So yeah, I'm massively excited about Lenny Yoro coming back as well. Let me know what you think about all the injury news there, though, in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you is regarding a young Brazilian wonder kid. So firstly, Fluminense's 18-year-old striker, Kawa Elias, I think that's how it's pronounced, could be the next young Brazilian to move to the Premier League. Elias has drawn firm interest from Manchester United and Fulham. He was also the subject of a rejected £20 million bid from Real Sociedad over the summer. Elias has played 34 games in all competitions for Fluminense, scoring 6 times and winning the 2023 Copa. No idea what that trophy is. He is also the top scorer at the 2023 Under-17 South American Championship with Brazil. We know that we've been scouting heavily the Under-17s. That's where we picked up Sekou Kone from, so there could be something in that. Ben Jacobs, I always think, is like a hitty-missy journalist. Like, you know, he's sometimes right, sometimes credible, sometimes not credible. I don't know if that was a link to United just to try and generate interest from others. Not a player that I've heard of. I've watched some highlights. Looks good. Looks a tidy player, but nothing. You know, I'm not going to profess to say that I know a lot about the player. Someone I'll keep an eye on for you and do some research should the rumors get a little bit more kind of serious as well. But we know full well that we are got scouts attending these sort of games, and Ineos are going to be going for these sort of players as well. So it's definitely an interesting option, considering that he would have obviously impressed the scouts, being top goal scorer at the championship, the under 17 South American Championship. So that would definitely definitely be a player of interest. Whether I believe the story or not, we'll have to keep an eye on it and see how that kind of develops. But it does fit the mantra of what we're kind of looking to do under Ineos, bringing in these young up-and-coming players. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other updates that we've gone through today, because that is you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I'll see you in the next one.